And welcome, students. As we dive into kind of a wrap-up lesson here for this unit, we're going to get a little bit of introduction into file input. So a little bit of file I/O. We won't go fully in-depth into the full process of using file I/O. There's a lot more. In fact, in Programming 2, I have a full unit on file I/O. So for our scope and sequence, we're just going to take a kind of a basic introduction to it. So in our scope here, let's talk about the scanner class, but we're going to use it instead of using a console input, we're going to use text file input. So we've been doing this pretty much through the keyboard. If you want to enter something into the program, you type something on the keyboard. However, the scanner class can also read input from a text file. So to do this, we'll create a scanner object and link it to the file index. All right. Now the details about this reading and writing, like I said, we've discussed in a later chapter in Programming 2. So I don't do it in Programming 1. I handle Programming 2. So if you want to know more about file input, take Programming 2. All right, so let's look first at just simple reading from a text file. So to read from a text file, we need to import the classes file input stream and file not found exception in addition to the scanner class. So we do it the exact same way. We use import, but instead of saying like import java.util.scanner, we're going to say import java.io.file input stream and import java.io file not found exception. All right, we have to include both of those in order to read from the text file. The first one, the file input streams, would actually allow us to read in those characters and process them from the scanner class. And then the file not found exception is pretty much a class that Java uses to make sure if the file you're looking for is not found or there's an error reading it, it doesn't like crash your program. It instead will just return this error. Like I said, file input stream, it handles the connection between Java and the file, and the file not found exception is when the program attempts to use it's not found or it does not exist, some sort of error happens with that. Now, if we look at a basic file input code, we're going to use what's known as a try-catch block to try and open the file. Again, try-catch is one of those things that's going to be discussed later on. That's another Programming 2 concept with try-catch that has to when we do our chapter on exception handling. So here I have scanner file in equals null, which simply just initializes that file in to be empty. I'm going to say try. I'm going to attempt to open the file in equals new scanner, new file input stream, and then the path to the file. Catch, file not found exception E. If the file cannot be found, we're going to do this code instead. System.out.println, file not found. System.x0, which simply just closes out the program. Very simple. It's going to try to read the file in. If it's not there, close the program. So how does this actually work as a program? Well, Java is going to first attempt to complete the code within a try block. If the file is found, it's going to immediately do the code in it. But if it's not found, well, it goes to the catch block. So again, if the file is not found, it's going to go to the catch block. If it is found, it's going to complete whatever's in the try block and ignore the catch block completely. All right, so if you have additional code, so it's like, hey, I read in the file and then I want to do some stuff to that file, that's all going to happen inside that try block. Otherwise, that's what the catch block is for, if it can't find it. Now, once you have your file read in by the scanner, you can pretty much just use it like you normally would with any other scanner object. For example, you could do file in.nextInt or file in.nextDouble instead of keyboard .nextInt or keyboard.nextDouble. If we wanted to do text, for example, like a string, we could do file in.next or file in.nextLine. So those are both viable options for us to explore. Now, there is one thing that's slightly different to think about when we're dealing with text files versus when we are dealing with the keyboard input. And that's the end of file. So in the console, we know when our last input's given because we're typing it. However, since we do not necessarily know the end of the text file, let's say it's a text file with over 100,000 lines of code, you're not going to know where the end of that is unless you're going through and you're counting all those. There's a better way to do it. So we have to determine if we've reached the end of file. And Java actually has this thing that's called, we can use file in.hasNextLine pretty much to determine if there is data that has left to be read. So when we reach the end of a file, we can use file in.close to tell Java, hey, we're done with the resources from that file. We don't need this open anymore. So here is an example program using the scanner class and file stream file not found exception. So I have my main program, and you can see I have scanner file in equals null. So I initialize it to null. Here's my try catch. So I'm just going to attempt to open the file. If it does, hey, reading this file. Otherwise, close out. Now, if it was opened successfully, because remember here, if it was not opened successfully, it exits the program with system.exit. But if it was opened successfully, it's going to do all this stuff right here. So it's going to say int high score, string name. First thing it does is say, hey, is there anything left to read in this file? So it's going to read in the next line. And then it's going to say, okay, high score equals file in.next int, file in.next line, name equals file in.next line. And then it just outputs the name, the high score, if there's any text left to read, and then closes the file. All right, and that's it. It's a pretty simple program. So if we actually look at this, how it's run, so if the file is not found, you will see this, file not found. And that's it. That's all the program's going to display. Because if we look back at our catch block, that's all it outputs, is file not found. But if the program can find the file, it's going to say text left to read, true. That's just telling you that there's something still in this file. It hasn't reached the end. Awesome. Name, Morgan Freeman, high score, 12,345. Text left to read, false. Because after this point, there's nothing left in the file, and it's done. All right, that was our quick introduction to file input. Again, if you want to learn a lot more about it, and there's a lot of really cool things with file that you can do with reading and writing to a text file, that will be handled in programming too. But for the scope of what we're dealing with here, this will handle most of what we need to do just to read data in from a text file. So that wraps us up, and I will see you next time.